So in this demo, we're going to turn on PowerShell remoting and set the permissions on a Windows 8.1 client using the commands we've just covered. So here on client 1, as you can see, I've run a couple commands and I've got some errors. The first error at the top, get-service, when I'm running that command, it's telling me that this operation might require other privileges. When you see this error, this could mean two things. One, you don't have the right permissions on the other side in order to do this, or two, that remoting is not set up. Now the next one, using the enter-ps session commandlet that we're going to cover in a little bit, this gives me a little bit more information. If you dig down into what it's saying, basically what it's saying to you is there's a problem with the ability to connect from this client to client 02 using WinRM, that there might be a problem with accessibility to the client or the firewall, something of that nature. Chances are what it means is that client 02 is not configured. So what we're going to do is we're going to move over to client 02 and take a look at the configuration and basically run through and enable PS remoting. So over here on client 2, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the enable PS remoting command on this system. Notice it tells me access denied, because what I need to do is I need to go in and I need to run this as administrator. So we'll go back in, enable PS remoting, and then it's going to come up quick saying it's running through the WinRM quick configuration. And it's going to tell us all the things that it's going to do is start or restart the WinRM service, set up the service to automatically start up, create a listener that accepts requests, and it's going to enable the firewall. Then it's going to ask me, do I want to continue? So I could click yes, and it'll click through a number of prompts, or I can do a capital A that'll go to yes to all of the prompts that I get. So we're going to choose the capital A. So it goes through, tells us that it's run through all of the WinRM configurations, set up our listener, set up our firewall. And now the last piece, what this is doing, this is setting up the PS configuration permissions on the listening session. So I'm going to choose yes, so that sets up the administrators. We'll choose yes to set it up on the workflows, and then it'll yes to set it up on PowerShell 32-bit. So that sets up all of our pieces so that we're enabled for PS remoting. So the next things we have to do is we actually have to add in our group into the local administrators group. So first thing what we're going to do is we're going to go into the local users and groups MMC snap-in. I'm going to go over to administrators. I'm going to go add, and then click advanced, find now, and then I'm going to browse down to, there it is, the help desk remote support account group. And that's my mbender account is a member of that. So click OK, click apply, OK. So now I have the permissions to actually run things on the remote system. Next, what I want to do is I want to run the set-ps session configuration that will allow me to add the help desk group that we saw before to these permission sets. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to do a set ps session configuration dash name is equal to Microsoft PowerShell dash show security descriptor UI, and click enter. And it'll give me a want to confirm on that, and I'll click yes. And that'll open up the UI. So what I can do is I can go in here and add that help desk remote support group. And we'll choose that user. And then we'll go in and we'll give them read, write, and execute permissions on that remote system. So it's going to verify that we want to restart the WinRM service because it needs to do that in order for these to take effect. So now we'll go back to Client 01 and see if things are improved for us. So back on Client 01, let's try running that enter PS session. So now we can see that it entered into the PS session. I do a get-service. We see that my services are available. So that tells me that I'm able to connect to this system using PowerShell remoting. And it also tells me that I'm able to actually gather information. So both of those two settings are working. So that's setting up our system for that. So this is going to be for a domain environment. So most environments you'll be working with are domain joined. So for non-domain machines, we need to use what's these things called trusted hosts. And basically what this is that when you have standalone systems, say you're connecting to a standalone server that's not a member of your domain, you need to tell your computer that you trust connecting to that remote system because it can't use Active Directory authentication in Kerberos. It can't use two-part authentication. So you need to trust that computer you're getting to. So the first thing we want to do is we want to do a get-item, and I'm going to put wsman localhost client trusted hosts, and that'll show me what trusted hosts are actually trusted on the system. So by default, I don't have any. So what I actually want to do is I want to do a set item, which will allow me to set my trusted host on my system. Put in client, trusted hosts, value. And for this, I could put an asterisk. That's going to trust connecting to every system. So you might want to do that. You might want to actually put in the name or the IP address. So in this case, we're going to put in the name. We're going to put in, say, connects to web server 01. And then it would ask, we want to verify that, yes. And then if we rerun, we see that's been added. I don't have a web server 01 to connect to that's outside of the domain, but if we did, this would allow us to be able to do PowerShell remoting to that system. So let's get our firewall all set up on Client 02 to work with legacy commands. So in order to do that, I need to modify the firewall to allow inbound traffic for WMI. So to find the rules that allow us inbound traffic for WMI, I'm going to use the get-net firewall rule commandlet. So as you can see here, I've already put my command in to save some typing. So we do a get-net firewall rule. I'm going to pipe that into a where command to look for the display name that's like Windows Management Instrumentation. And then from that, I'm going to select the display name, the name, and the status of whether it's enabled or not. So we'll go ahead and click enter, and that brings back for us all of the rules, and we see that they're all disabled at this point. So an easy way to enable these is we just simply go back, we bring back our command, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the select, and I'm going to put in a set net firewall rule commandlet, type in enabled, and set this to true, and then we put our verbose parameter in here, and we see it'll go through and set all of those rules to true. So that's an easy way for us to take from one of our searches to actually do work. So you can do that with any of the commandlets using the pipeline, and that's the power of the pipeline. So now that we have this all set up, we should be all ready to go to start remote managing our client workstation.